2, 1, go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday night edition on Fightnwords Network. I'm Don Henderson, and we've got our normal group all around the country to talk about sports on a Wednesday night. 2 hours of hopefully information that we can pass along as we try to touch on each and every sport. Frank Carroll, our executive producer, is in charge. We have no dedications tonight, so we're going to get right into it. Roy Cummings is in Tampa, Florida. As always, he covers the Lightning, the Rays, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And so we get a little bit of everything in Tampa Bay. But before we start, we chat a lot about the tournament going on right now. But I've got to talk about last night's soccer game involving the Lightning. I'll tell you, it was the Wild and the Lightning played last night on TNT. I don't know how many people had a chance to see the whole game. Roy, did you see it? You're the hockey man here, and what a crazy game it was.
You know what? I did not see it.
Get out!
No, I didn't. I actually was watching a couple other games. I was watching the Blackhawks, so I did not see the Wild and the Lightning. Although I'm sure it was a good game. Tell me about it. What happened?
Well, I was going to get you to explain it to me because I'll tell you. Well, 2 things. One, they were down 2-1. They came back at going into the third period. They were tied 3-3. But they had an overabundance of fights as far as I'm concerned. I just hate to see somebody get hurt at this part of the season where they hand or finger or something and not be able to play in the playoffs. But I thought the fights were a little overdone. But at the same time, the post-game show, which they did on TNT, ran about 20 minutes, and they had Coop on for about 15 minutes of the 20. And I was counting on you because on the early part of the post-game show, they talked about a particular play where they had 2 players going down the left wing. The score was still tied 3-3. They won the game, as you probably know, 6-3. But the 2 players coming down the left wing who are left-handed shooters. And they were explaining that when they went to Coop, they said to him, "Is this a play that you practice?" And he sort of smiled and laughed. And I thought I was going to find out from you whether that was a tongue-in-cheek question or whether this was something that really was thrown up on the boards to try and score a goal in the last 3 minutes of the game to win it by a score of 6-3.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it certainly could have been, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but obviously it worked out for them. Sometimes those plays are put together, but it's not easy to run those kind of plays when you're skating into the zone because you're liable to face some kind of defense. A lot easier to run plays off a set system, like a face-off or something like that. Usually it's like I said, that's where you have those set plays where you're kind of in a face-off spot. So it's not always easy to run that kind of a play when just in the flow of the game. But obviously it worked out for the Light. I'll tell you what, I mean, they're coming back to life after a tough run since the Olympic break. They had one of the worst records in the league right after the Olympic break. And for a good couple of weeks there, but now this road trip has really been good for him. Nikita Kucherov has taken over the league lead in points. Did that with another 4-point game in Edmonton against Connor McDavid, who was leading the league at the time. So, look, the Lightning are, as I've said all along this year, it's been one of John Cooper's best jobs as a coach, no question about that. Because he's got a lot of pieces that he's had to, kind of mold together here that aren't a regular part of his team. And he's done a great job of that with a lot of guys who are, getting their first real taste of the NHL and NHL playing time. And I mean, and that's because they've had so many injuries. They've been out with and they had one stretch there where they didn't have any of their top 3 defensemen, and that's tough. And they had a stretch where they didn't have Braden Point. They've had stretches where they don't have, Brandon Hagel and some other guys. So it's been a tough run for them, but they have certainly met every challenge. And guys, there isn't a better team in the East, and I'm not sure there's a better team in the league than Tampa Bay. Colorado maybe, but if the Lightning can play the way they have with the injuries they face already, if they can get healthy and stay healthy, it is going to be hard to beat them come playoff time. Now, playoffs are a completely different animal, but as we all know, the Lightning are a team that's certainly built for the playoffs. They know exactly how to handle things in the playoffs. They've got the grit, they've got the depth, and the thing about the penalties that you mentioned, Don, the Lightning are like the most penalized team in the league. It could be that they thought they were playing the Panthers last night or something, but they respond quickly. They got a short fuse, the Lightning. They respond rather quickly to anything that doesn't quite work out their way, and in a way that's really good because they've got each other's back. This is not Toronto, where Austin Matthews gets taken down and everybody just kind of skates back to the bench. Oh, that's too bad. If you give a bad shove to somebody in the Lightning, you're going to hear about it and you're going to feel it because they're going to come right back at you. And but that's that's a sign of a good team. And my guess is that come playoff time, they'll tone that down just a little bit because they don't want to take stupid penalties. But that's kind of the character of this team, that they really do have each other's backs. And if you give any of their stars a nudge, you're gonna get a nudge back, and maybe a pop in the mouth along with it.
Well, you're seeing a lot of fun, and I'm just sorry you didn't get a chance to see that post-game show. One other thing about Coop that I think is really, really good, and that is he knows how to handle the press after the game is over, win or lose. We know what happened in the Canadian loss during the Olympic Games and so forth. And, of course, last night they were really, kidding him back and forth about how he was coaching and the fact that they came back to win that game last night by a score of 6-3. Right now in the East, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Montreal. It's going to be a fun playoffs as there is in the NBA or in the college playoffs, which we'll get to right now because we'll jump out of hockey, go generally to get to the big sport of the world, and that is March Madness. And Roger, we'll let you start off with this one.
Well, just before we go to that, I wanted you to know I did see the beginning and I saw the end of the Lightning game last night. So at least I saw the end to see what the score was for, I guess, the last 5 minutes it was. I got to watch it. But anyway,
I just wanted Roy to explain to me whether this was a little tongue-in-cheek going on between the panel and also between Coop and all. It's unfortunate you didn't get a chance to see it. So, yeah, back to basketball.
Yep. Well, it's been as we were saying before we went on the air, it's been an exciting and surprising and not so surprising, first couple of rounds because it just goes to show you that pretty much the mid-majors had problems. And it's not, it's unusual, I think, when you get a team that really surprises, like we saw with St. Peter's a few years ago and went to the Final Four. It just doesn't occur. And but I think it's been great. There's some great games. We talked about the Vanderbilt game with that shot at the end that went in and out that could have tied it up. UConn has had some issues, but they're in, and St. John's won by 2 against Kansas. So, there's been some really exciting games that get your attention. And unfortunately, well, it'll be better now, but, unfortunately, that first couple of days, a lot of the games are during the day when people are working and you don't get a chance to watch them. And then some of them are so late at night. The UConn was, I think both games were like, they didn't end until 11:30 midnight, something like that. So it should be great getting to the Sweet 16 this weekend.
And Roy, the one thing about the March Madness is that you hardly get a chance to pick because there are so many upsets, especially early on. As you said, your sheet follows suit.
Yeah, I did not. I usually take some chances and put quite a bit of risk into it. I'll pick 5 or 6 upsets in the first couple of rounds. Didn't do that this year, and I paid for it. And we talked about it last week, guys, where we think this tournament is where there's just a parity now in college basketball that we haven't seen in a while, or it seems like that. And I thought, I think we talked a little bit about how that could, certainly make this a very interesting final, championship tournament. And lo and behold, it's happened. I didn't follow, my own advice and picking up upsets. I still think at the end of the day, though, I still think, and we're kind of seeing it, the cream is still going to rise to the top here. We still got Arizona in there. Florida's out, obviously. But, and boy, talk about another, tight game. That was another close one. But Florida's out, obviously. But Arizona's still in. Duke's still in. This still has, all the top seeds, or most of the top seeds are still there. Still have a good shot at this thing. And so I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, who you would expect to be, in the final 8 and the final 4 to be there. But obviously a couple have been knocked out, so certainly more of that could come. It's just again, I think that just shows the parity, and I know the mid-majors are struggling for the most part, but that's nothing new. But I just think that overall, the tournament just seems a little bit more balanced, and I think it's been a great tournament.
Oh, I think it's been a great tournament. Really, the coaches have come to the forefront once again. And Arkansas, nice. I'll tell you, no matter where he goes, Roger, he winds up winning. Winning. Doesn't take him long to get there.
Yeah, and it started at UMass. Okay.
He started as an assistant at Pittsburgh, and then he went to UMass.
Then he went to, but as a head coach, he started at UMass. And,
right.
And I believe, as I recall, seeing him on the bench of the Nets at one time. So
yep.
He's done it all in Kentucky and Arkansas, and he wins. He always wins. And I'll tell you, you got to give John Calipari a lot of credit. He does win, and he takes teams. I think he takes them to a certain level, and I don't know whether he feels challenged. Not challenged anymore, and he needs to get challenged again. And but he's successful. I give him a lot of credit, and a lot of people don't like some of his style and some of his actions, but I respect the man, and I've seen him like you have. We all have for many years, and he's always successful wherever he goes.
No question about that. And Roy, Duke, they went to the wire a couple of times trying to, you thought they were going to really spread things out in the early rounds. It didn't happen that way.
Yeah, it didn't, and a little nervous about that because I got Duke winning this thing. If I'm going to have any chance at all of winning my bracket, I'm going to need them to win it. But, I don't know. I get the sense that they're going to get knocked off here at some point. They're just not quite the powerhouse that they were. They clearly seem vulnerable. I don't think it's, right now I'll say this. I think I'll be surprised if they get to the championship game. If they get there, I'll give them every chance to win. But it just seems like, I don't know that it's inevitable, but it just seems like somebody's got their number. Like, a couple of teams have their number. So, and going back to what you were saying about Calipari, that's one thing that's kind of, a bit of old school here. I mean, you still have Pitino's in the, Rick Pitino's still in the tournament. Calipari's in the tournament. Tom Izzo's in the tournament. I think we all remember a time when college basketball was all about the coaches, and it's still that way in a lot of ways, but not quite as much because Krzyzewski's gone, Dean Smith is gone. Some of the legendary coaches, certainly no more John Wooden, no more Bobby Knight. I mean, there were so many, and at one time, so many, legendary coaches coaching that it was as much about the coaches as it was the players and everything else. And you still get a little bit of that with Calipari and Pitino and Tom Izzo you're right, Roger. I don't know what keeps these guys going. It's they must just love the game. Of course, the paychecks aren't bad, but I think the challenge of being able to go to almost any school, it seems, and build a program that's got a championship caliber to it. I think it just it really draws them to do it. I mean, it's really good. St. John's, it's good. To me, it's just great to see them back in the tournament and playing at a high level again. So happy for that. But it's funny. I mean, Calipari, Patino, in particular, they've got as many fans that hate them as love them. So it's one of those. They seem to burn every bridge that they cross on their way to the next challenge. But there's no question that they are easily some of the greatest coaches in the history of the game.
Well, Patino, of course, at St. John's, the reveille in his success so many years since they've been in a Sweet 16 or anywhere close to it. And, of course, he's part of he has a $1 billion alumni guy that really pumps him up. And I saw in the paper Sunday that $369 million was spent in Pell money for the schools. A lot of the coaches, his friend Dumpy said last week with us, the great coach at LaSalle, and then on to Penn, and then on to Temple. And he says, where's the education now? And even the University of Pennsylvania, their leading scorer that took him into the tournament, played his first year at Duke, his second year at Virginia, and this past year at the University of Pennsylvania. So these guys are moving around for the money. $369 million in 1 year to pay out for the Pell is a heck of a lot of money. The one person that did not succeed well is the University of North Carolina, VCU, down by 19 points, came back to win, and in a real close finish. My kids were not happy, obviously, and North Carolina bowed out in the first round.
And the coach may be gone very soon, too, because that's what you read about now.
Well, as JD said, the problem is they've given so much money now to Belichick, and so much money, they just signed all the coaches to an additional 5-year contract a year ago. So he said, if you're going to start paying these guys off, you're going to spend an awful lot of money with no return.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no doubt about it. The other thing about with the coaches, and just in basketball, because you fellas probably don't watch much in the women's tournament, but anyway, at the UConn women's game the other day, Monday, they showed what the pavilion is going to look like when they get, it's millions going into it. I think a new roof, because they have a roof like the Carrier Dome, in Syracuse. Remember when they came up with that type of material? And but they're going to spend it on for every sport at that university is going to be able to take advantage of these improvements, workouts, training, everything. It's amazing, and they started yesterday. That right after the UConn women won, and to go to the Sweet 16. So the money is there. It's amazing, and when you see that young man that did so well at Penn, so much for the Ivy League reputation as the Ivy League.
Well, Dino's up to 31 consecutive wins without a loss this year, and 10 times now he's had a chance to take a team to an undefeated season. And I forget how many times he's been in tournaments over the consecutive years. I can't remember what that last number was, but
I think it's 16 in the Sweet 16, and I think it's 30 in the tournament, something like that.
And he's done. I got to say that Dawn had a great year too at South Carolina, not as good as she's had a couple of years ago. But Dawn Staley did. I think they lost 3 games this year, if I'm not mistaken. And Dawn won easily in the first round too. My belief is it's going to come down to South Carolina and Connecticut for the final game. But there are some other good. University of Texas has a good team. They're third, so it should be very interesting on the women's side too.
UCLA has
UCLA. Yep, UCLA has a great team as well. So the women have a lot of competition too. I don't know, Roy, whether you watch much women's basketball, but I'll tell you, it's really moved up in the ratings. I mean, people are really following it pretty closely.
Yeah, they are, and rightfully so. I mean, look, I think the women's game is a very good game to follow. It's good, solid basketball. A little bit more fundamentally oriented, I think, as opposed to, shooting threes all the time. And granted, the athleticism is not quite on the same level as the men, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's still a darn good brand of basketball. And then, look, the fact that the WNBA has become more popular is making the college game more popular, and it's making it more popular among high school kids. And that's what's great about it. These games are growing. There's just more and more interest in it. And it's one of the benefits of, these games getting on TV and being exposed to more people. You get more kids are getting involved in it, and the more kids get involved, the better the pool is to find the best athletes and to make it interesting. And hey, look, not much has changed in the women's game over the last few years. As you said, Don, you're looking at probably UConn and South Carolina in the championship game. But with no surprise there. It's kind of how it's been for a while. But, other teams are starting to come around. And as you said, UCLA's building up a good program again. So I think it's great. Yeah, I haven't seen much of it yet, but certainly they do a pretty good job of putting it on nights when the men's game was not being played. So certainly the opportunity is going to be there to see more games, and I'll certainly check them out.
Roger, your Arizona team is going to be tested this week because John Calipari is a 7.5-point underdog going up against Arizona in the Sweet 16. I think that's going to be another real good game.
Oh, I think it should be a great game. I just wanted to say one thing was following up with what we were talking about with the women. One thing that I've noticed, because, of course, it's been a number of years since my daughter played AAU, but what I have found with the AAU programs today, I mean, there were always a number of fairly well-known people. Joey Crawford coached the team from Havertown, Delaware County, and when he was an NBA ref. But one of the girls at Hendricks Middle Schools in 7th grade, she plays for an AAU program run by Lou Williams, the former player on the Hawks. So, and he's got his daughter in it. So it's amazing now when you're getting, well-known former players, college and pro, getting involved in AAU programs. And I think, if anything, it gives these young girls a great opportunity to develop and learn from even better coaches overall than maybe in the past. That's just my idea, my thinking. But I think that's going to be a great game, Don. Arizona and Arkansas, I really do. And it wouldn't surprise me if I get knocked out. But I think Arizona is a much better team. But only the time will tell.
Well, we're going to talk officials in the next half hour, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. Just a very quick question to both of you. The possibility of using substitute officials in the National Football League and how they're going to...
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Jeff, it's Frank for the show. Can you give me a call at 941-685-4540?
In terms of how it affects replay, I don't think there's much of an issue there. But, anytime you got a substitute official, you can expect some misses, but they have misses now. And you know what? Same for both teams. So not all that concerned about it, really.
Roy, before we leave Tampa, David retiring, 32, 33 years of age, and has decided that this was going to be it for the Bucks.
Yeah, kind of sad to see him go. Mark Dominic selected that young man in one of his first drafts, and boy, oh boy, he sure as heck didn't miss. And what a player! And I mean, he's going to retire from the Bucks as their leading tackler of all time, ahead of Derek Brooks. That's saying something. And for the 15, 16 years he was in the league, easily, guys, one of the most underrated players in the NFL. You know, it took until Tom Brady came to the Bucks for the rest of the NFL and maybe the rest of the football nation to realize what a great player Mike Evans is, and that he's basically in essence a legitimate Hall of Fame candidate. I don't know that Levante David will ever get that kind of recognition, but he deserves it. If you ever looked at his stats, they're elite level. They truly are. And I don't know that outside of Derek Brooks, I don't know that there's a better linebacker, sideline to sideline than Levante David in the NFL. He was that quick, and even at the end of his career, he could still track you down out there on the wing. So I'll tell you what, it's a sad day because the Bucks have lost. And granted, his skill set has deteriorated a bit, but he was still good enough. I think he could have still played. There's no question he could still play. But I think he probably holds himself to a certain standard and just says, you know what?
Come on, Jeff.
Your call has been forwarded.
In the game's history, when you start talking about most underrated players in pro football, Levante David's in that conversation, guys.
Well, he walks out with 1,714 tackles, of course, the franchise record, no question about that. And as you said, right up there with the most elite of all. And Roger, you got a new quarterback coming down there with Falcons, Brian Robinson Jr. Gave him $2 million plus contract, so they got another quarterback down there.
Well, they do, and the thing is that Penix is he's talking about really he's not planning on being anything but the starter. So we'll see how his health is, but it looks like it's going to be a real great competition for the starting quarterback position on the Falcons. And I think, getting back to the Bucks for a second, Roy, had to be just a blessing to be able to watch that group of players over all the years, the number of players that were in that group, over many years. I mean, there's so many, the Hall of Famers, but then, I look at Booker McFarland. I mean, what a great player he was. And I think he's a tremendous a broadcaster. I really do. So, that just had to be a real treat for you.
It was, guys. I got put on that beat for the Tampa Tribune in 1999 after, 10 years covering the Tampa Bay Lightning from the moment Phil Esposito came into Tampa saying he was going to bring a team there through their first 8 years on the ice. And I went kicking and screaming, guys. I had no desire whatsoever to go cover the Bucks. And it turned out to be, it was a blessing because what a tremendous, it stopped, I came in there, 2000 was my first season, and it was just special. I got to work with Tony Dungy, but cover Tony Dungy, and, that Hall of Fame, laden, Bucks franchise, team with, obviously, Rondé Barber on it, John Lynch, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, who may get there one day, and then they had a bit of a downturn after that, and after Gruden won them the Super Bowl, and but then they bounced back and got to experience all that too. So yeah, it was. I couldn't have asked for much more. It was a great time. Obviously, the greatest era in Bucs history, and some tremendous players and some truly remarkable people as well involved in those teams. And it was an honor. It was a privilege and an honor. And it was, as I said, I went kicking and screaming, but at the end of the day, it was it worked out pretty well.
Well, Roy, as always, a great first half hour. We appreciate it very, very much. We touched on a lot of different topics, and we'll touch on a lot more in the next hour and a half as we continue. And look forward to next week, and we'll have all new information once again. But we're going to flip the sheet over now because our executive producer, Frank Carroll, is a very good friend of his, Jeff Phillips, who's an NCAA official. And we talk about the officiating in all sports, whether it be basketball now or football in the past. So, Frank, what I'll let you do is you introduce Jeff and give us a little bit of background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Don, he must have gotten tied up in something. He hasn't answered his phone. I just texted him. So we're going to need to take a couple minutes to talk about it. I can tell you, Jeff has been a Florida high school official for more than 25 years. He's been the director of the program in this section of Florida. He's also an NCAA NCAA 2 official, and there are a lot of changes coming up, and I'm sure that everybody wants to talk to him about that. In addition to that,
well, that was why I brought it up in the first half hour, just the fact that that they were thinking about. I don't know what the money dispute. I assume it's money, but I don't know what the dispute is between the NFL and the players or the officials. That there'd be possibility that they would be using substitute officials at least early in the season, if not, no matter how far we go in. Yeah. We just touched on it with Roy, and I thought with Jeff coming on, it'd be a good opportunity to talk about the responsibility of coming in and taking over for supposedly the best officials in sports that work on the National Football League. Roger, you any comment?
Yeah, well, I agree, and I was looking forward to it too. And as I mentioned before, we went on the air tonight. I really.
You son of a bitch. No. I sent him a text at noontime, and I sent him one at 5.
Your call has been
Jeff Phillips.
Yes, on the field too, really, have been incorrect. So I think it really says a lot about CBS and these other official analysts that they have. They're all good. I'm not saying that, but I.
Oh, come on, Steve.
Hey, this is Steve. Sorry I missed your call. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Hey, Steve, it's Frank, 941-685-4540. Our guest that was supposed to be on at this segment didn't show up. Just wondering if you could fill in. 941-685-4540.
Say what the call's going to be. At least that's the way I feel. I don't know about you fellows.
I agree. Frank?
Yep. I agree with 100%.
It's been tough. It's been tough for them.
Yeah. A couple of the new changes coming in, according to Sean Payton is that they're changing the kickoff and kickoff return rules. In that one of the things, they can't kick the ball out of bounds now. Number two, they have there's four new rules coming in. One of them is again about the lineup, whether they can move or not to defend the game, and then they have to announce now whether they're going to do a side kick or not. So that's that's a big change.
I wasn't going to talk any baseball this half hour until after we finish with Jeff, because Steve's coming on with us in just a little bit. Steve Kinsella. Nobody knows more about the statistics in baseball. As we get the season underway, Yankees and San Francisco are starting up in just a couple of minutes. But the Phillies went out and got themselves a long-term contract with the pitcher, Roger, and we, of course, followed the Phillies pretty closely. And Sanchez got a very nice deal for $100 million.
Yeah, he did, and he's like 30 years old, so he still has a number of good years. Whereas Wheeler is obviously older and doesn't have as many years left. Nola's a little younger, but
$104 million for 6 years, but it doesn't start until a couple of years down the road. It runs all the way through the deferred money through 2035 to 2044. So, but he does get the $22.5 million this year, which is he was already signed to another year, and this is just an extension.
Yeah. Well, they have to have confidence in him, and I think he's really turned out to be a terrific pitcher. He's going to start the first game tomorrow night against the Texas Rangers at Citizens Bank Park. And, it'll be interesting to see the ratings on tonight's first game, where they only have one game on, and it's on Netflix. And I don't know. I mean, I don't have Netflix. I could get it very easily. All I got to do is push a button. All right, Frank, let's do this and get me off of here.
Yes, sir.
It's opening night.
I understand.
That's
Hey,
so what?
hey, Raj. Hey, guys, we're joined. Steve has come on a little bit early, but he has to get off for his first starting pitch. So let's go ahead with Steve.
Okay.
So what do we do? I did.
Steve Kinsella is on.
We got Stevie on, Don.
Oh, we put Stevie on it. Okay, then we'll go another direction. Yeah. Okay.
Let's get ready for opening night, guys. Let's get going. Let's go.
All right. Well, you're right. This first game gets underway, the Giants and the Yankees, to get the season started on Netflix, as Roger was referring to. And but a couple of things we were just chatting before you came on, Steve, and nobody knows the stats better than you do. Your thoughts on the Phillies making the extension with Sanchez? Do you like that move?
Yeah, it'll help them with future extensions.
This is Bedford Andes. I'm not here right now. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you. Thanks.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Doug, it's Frank. Jeff Phillips bowed out on us for the 8 o'clock portion. Can you come on from 8 to 8:20? I'll text you and let me know. 941-685-4540 is the text number.
If you are satisfied with your message, Press 1 to send your message with no thank you. Your message has been sent. Goodbye.
Is better than your local programming or whatever you normally be watching. So this is just Netflix getting things started. And, it is kind of funny that they say it's the first time there's only been one game on opening night when they've got all these games in Japan and, stuff like that for opening night, and teams playing a 2-game series in Mexico or Japan or something like that. So,
Steve, they don't remember Cincinnati.
Bless you.
yeah, they don't remember this.
There's a little town called Cincinnati in the Midwest. They had a cardinal rule about the first game of the season.
I remember. They still have the great parade that ends up, that morning. It's still a highly attended parade. So, that was the big draw for Cincinnati. They had the big parade and the team coming in with floats and stuff and going right into the stadium. But, yeah, baseball's not a ratings monster. It's not like the NFL where they're trying to really boost everything. They'll get better ratings than maybe what was on TV on your local NBC station at 8 o'clock. And Netflix will do okay with it. It'll be a good thing for baseball to have more exposure, more games on national TV for people. So it'll be good.
And I think they have 20, don't they? 20 or 30 games?
It's something like that. It's just another avenue, and baseball needs to find a way to spread its wings a little bit more and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes.
One thing that you do is you cover the minor leagues as well as the major leagues. And Larry Bow was the first to say, you were the second that came on right after Larry. And I've noticed in the national media the last week and a half, 10 days especially, they're giving a lot of coverage now on Miami. You said you thought that Miami was going to be a much better team. They certainly weren't going to be the bottom of the barrel that they've been for a couple of years. And Larry Bow said the same thing. Are you still with it as you come out of spring training? Do you still think that Miami is going to make a little bit of a bump up in the NL East?
Yeah, I think they're going to be more competitive. I think that they have a chance. What I had preferenced was they have a chance to be a surprise team. Now their margin of error is very low when it comes to injury and poor performance. And they already start the year with Kyle Showers hit in the IL, which doesn't help my stay as injury free as you can to perform. But they've got they've got a very exciting young team, a lot of young, very athletic team. They remind me of the Brewers in a lot of ways. Pete Bendix is putting together a team of very talented athletic players. A lot of people don't know the name on the back of the jersey right now, but he's putting together a nice little compilation of talent.
Roger?
The Mad Dog Christopher Russo the other day was talking about the ratings, Steve, and he said, and you probably are more familiar with this, I was surprised. It was a great game, okay, because I remember it well. The 6th game of the World Series, 1980, the Phillies and the Royals is the highest ratings. Forget Japan, when you have all these outside influences. But within the U.S., that was the highest rated game in the history of baseball. Did you know that? I didn't.
No, I did not know that either. But that was a glorious period of baseball back in the 80s. Early 80s. There wasn't the cable TV explosion. There wasn't a saturation of being able to get the games available. And the Fall Classic was, that was a big draw. Then as time went on, when you had the superstations and WGN and WWOR, and then eventually the cable packages and baseball pretty much 24/7, it's hard to get ratings, on a more than just a regional level anymore in baseball, which is, it's understandable. It's a very regional sport.
Yeah.
The Brewers are a team that nobody knows the name of the players. They helped those others a little bit. Jake Woodward signed up to go into the bullpen there. So the Brewers continue to try and piece together things that make their team better and better, and more players and nobody knows who they are.
Well, I know who Jake Woodford is. I'm a big Cardinals fan as well. So he came up with St. Louis and showed flashes, and then kind of meandered around the league for a little bit, and then he was with the Rays.
he was with the Rays, and
Right.
the Rays traded him over to Milwaukee for a kid named K.C. Hunt. So he had an upward mobility clause, and he chose to use it, and the Rays were able to get a deal for him. But we'll see how he settles into that swingman role that Milwaukee likes to use.
And Casey Hill was a minor league acquisition. Roger?
Well, I heard today Chris Russo had the manager, I think it's Don Kelly, right? The Pirates manager. And he was talking about the Pirates, and boy, I'll tell you, they've made a lot of moves, and it seems like they're all positive.
Yeah, they have a good young pitching staff, and they're looking for some more offense, because their offense was woeful last year. So they added Brandon Lau, which is a nice addition, and then they went out and got Marcell Ozuna, another nice addition. So there's some lefty and righty power bats. They're hoping for a nice year from Spencer Horwitz, who kind of struggled with a wrist injury last year, wrist or hand injury. And of course, I think they have the number one prospect in baseball. Shortstop, but he's not quite up yet. He'll be up shortly. I'm anticipating him coming up and helping out very early in the season. And they got Neil Cruz, and they got a nice little team. But last year they really struggled to score runs. Maybe they get Jared Jones back at some point during the season. They got a nice pitching staff with Paul Skeens at the top there. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition with the offense.
Steve, we talked about what's happening in Miami, but also touch a little bit on Washington too, because it's nice to see some of the lesser teams. Maybe they're going to spend more money. Maybe the player here or there, a good move. How about Washington? Are they going to be more competitive?
No, Washington has no. I hope Washington. They're on the right path. They take care of up the middle. Their farm system isn't ready to produce. As much as people thought it was. James Wood came up, and he's the real deal. But they had a few other guys that took a step back. But they shouldn't be spending too much money on that roster. They need to continue focusing on that farm system. If maybe look at moving a Mackenzie Gore or a C.J. Abrams and kind of expediting that because they let their farm system go pretty porous, and you can't do that. So. They're going to be okay, but they really have a lot of holes. I'm not too high on them.
Yeah, Steve, let me ask you about the Phillies farm system. I mean, we're still waiting for players, to come up and really contribute where you feel they're going to have a big impact on the team. I don't see it yet, and I don't see. I don't know how deep in the farm system you have to go to expect contribution. Is it 3 years out? Is it 4 years out? You're on top of it. What do you think?
It has to be immediate. You don't get through 162 games and forget about impact. How about coverage? You take a look at the Dodgers and how they run players up from their farm system that aren't top prospects, that they don't give a big impact, but they give close to league average or less than league average. But they can get through a 162-game season with dealing with tons of injuries and just plugging these guys in. And that's what the Phillies need to be able to do. You don't need to have a top prospect come up and make an impact. You need a relief pitcher that can come up and lock down a couple innings for you once in a while. You need a shortstop or middle infielder that can come up and cover that middle infield for you, either defensively or offensively, That's what you need from your farm system. I always tell people, look at the Dodger farm system, or the Rays farm system, a few of these other Cleveland's, Milwaukee's, where they go down and they piece together a 162-game season by giving guys 60 plate appearances, 80 plate appearances, 100 plate appearances, or you can get a guy that pitches 20 innings or 14 innings, whatever it may be, in a relief role, or make a spot start for them. If you have that in your farm system, you're well ahead of other teams. It's unbelievable how many teams, when they have injuries, are not able to piece together anything from their farm just to get that short-term league average or slightly below league average production. It goes into deployment, and that's what costs a lot of people at the end of the year.
Well, Steve, you know more about the Rays than almost anybody. They're going to be back at the top. They're going to be at a Steinbrenner and back in Tampa. A lot of injuries last last year, a lot of disappointment last year, a lot of controversy last year. They finally got a lot of all that out of the way. You see all those Ray games. What do you think about first of all the Trop? Have you been there all yet, or what do you think?
No, I haven't been down there, but it's nice to be back in a pitcher-friendly environment, and it seems, the team's, much. Whitey Herzog said it many years ago. You design your team and farm system based on your home park, and that's what the Rays have done continuously. And then to have that organization go into Steinbrenner Field, I made the comment last year to a lot of people. They're not built for Steinbrenner Field. Don't expect much. It's my Whitey Herzog in me that says, no, you're not built for that. Now they're going back to the Trop, but the whole organization is focused on, building for that environment, that pitcher-friendly park, and that, for the defense and everything. Again, if they stay injury-free, they've got a pretty exciting lineup. As usual, it's not a bunch of kids, that are unproven. Jonathan Aranda and Junior Caminero are the young guys, but they have a whole year under their belt. They've got Gavin Lux on the IL, should be back rather soon. They've got Cedric Mullins, who's not a kid. So they've got quite a few guys that aren't kids. Yandy Diaz, he's been around the block a number of times. It's a very seasoned team, and the pitching staff is Matson Martinez, getting Shane McClanahan back. Ryan Peppiott entering his third year. The bullpen is full of veterans like Griffin Jackson, Brian Baker, Edwin Uceta when he gets back, Derek Clevenger. So the Rays have a team that's racing to the trade deadline and hoping they could be the team that adds on rather than the team that's selling all these guys at the deadline. So really for them, the season is basically a race to the deadline, and that's what I look at. How well can they do, and how can they keep up with everybody else and stay injury-free, whatever, up to the deadline.
Roger.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how they draw. Do you think it's going to be like it's been in the past, or do you think people will be excited knowing that in maybe 3 years they're going to be in a new ballpark?
No, they're going to draw the same as they always do, which is suppressed because, the Rays attendance, when people look at the average attendance, they get all bummed out and they're like, oh, it's 17 or 18,000. But remember, the Rays capped it at 25,000. So on those weekend games where they're getting 25,000 people, they don't ever get those weekend games where they get those 34, 35,000 nights to kind of boost the Monday to Wednesday. So I would guess the attendance is just going to be 70% of capacity on an average around 17,000 because they unless they open the third deck up, which I haven't heard they're going to do that yet, and allow those big crowds on the weekend that every other team can boost their attendance. With those big crowds on the weekend, you have the Yankees coming down, or you got the Red Sox in town. On a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to draw quite a few people. But in Tampa Bay, it's been capped at 25,000 for those games, so they don't get that extra boost on the weekend.
Wow. Steve, we talked about last year what happened to Atlanta. They go to 0-7 or 0-9 start. Yeah, injuries killed them all year. They've had a few injuries in spring training already, getting ready for the opening day tomorrow. And then, are they going to be in the same boat, getting off to a shaky start again because of the injury bracket?
Well, I don't know. Wins and losses. I don't know how much of the wins and losses last year in that horrible stretch had to do with injuries. But yeah, they are challenged from the injuries. You could be really injured and have a 7-2 start. Or a 5-4 start, as things go on and you have other injuries and other things. But yeah, from Awesome Tim getting hurt over there in the winter, during the winter time, all the way up to Spencer Strider getting hurt right before the season opened. That team has been cursed all the way through that period of time. So many guys have gone off. And then, of course, I know if you were watching the Braves and you saw Reynaldo Lopez with no fastball in that last Grapefruit League start, that had to be alarming. Now, he made a mechanical adjustment. He says, it looks back up to its normal velocity, but that was kind of scary. So I keep it, the Jurickson Profar thing is crazy, and I keep waiting for them to sign Lucas Giolito and add him with the, kind of reallocating some of that Profar money they don't have to spend, but we'll see. That's who I would do if I was a Braves. I would try to get Giolito in there to kind of help out.
Well, they rolled out at 21-7, and a little surprising. Obviously, spring training doesn't really mean very much, but you look at the teams in the National League East, you go Atlanta, Washington, the Mets, Miami, and then, of course, Philadelphia. They only won 10 and lost 17. Roger, you're up.
Yeah, I don't think spring training has the record has much to do with the season. So many non-major league players are, on the field. But with the Braves, it's not only Spencer Strider; it's several pitchers.
Oh yeah,
that are hurt, and even the Atlanta. Of course, there's no more printed HAC, so all you do is get things on the website, on the computer or on the apps. That's about it. And the consensus is they're in trouble because of the lack of strong pitching because of injury.
Yeah, they are definitely on the they're on the nervous side. Again, it's you're going to have your depth tested, and they're going to have to find a way to get through this period till they get some of these guys back. Not all the guys are going to be out for the season, but maybe you're probably going to see a few openers being used or multiple guys coming out of the bullpen, and then stuff like that. So we'll have to see how the Braves do it. It's going to be a rough beginning to them. So if they can get off to a good start, then people in Atlanta will be happy and looking forward to the second half. If they get off to a slow start, it's a long road back.
Steve, to me, maybe one of the greatest baseball cities in St. Louis, and maybe sort of in the doldrums the last couple of years. Statistically, as you look over the team for 26, do you see any kind of improvement with the Cardinals this year?
No, I think Chaim Bloom is doing what he did in Boston. He's going to put together one hell of a farm system.
Frank.
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Hey man, sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you for doing the show. We really appreciate it. I know your time is short.
Oh no, that's okay. I called into a meeting and it ran late.
Okay, no problem. We're just finishing up with Steve Kinsella from the Rays, and then we'll go right to you.
Okay.
I'm blended in.
Boston, the new GM gets blessed with. But the Cardinals are going to kind of be a static team, and near the trade deadline, you'll see them probably flipping guys like Lars Nootbaar and Alec Burleson and whatever else they can flip to try to build that up. But they'll try to be competitive. When I talk about Washington or St. Louis, they're going to try to be competitive in Pittsburgh and see where the season takes them. But I think the long range plan for St. Louis is to try to keep the fans engaged and excited, but at the same time build that farm system up to what it used to be and what Boston did under Chaim Bloom.
Roger?
Yeah, that will be interesting to see. And let's talk. I mean, we talked the last time you were on. Let's go right down as far as the different divisions in the American League. Do you like the Yankees? Do you like Toronto? You like Boston or Baltimore?
In the East, I'll probably go with the Blue Jays and the Yankees as a 1 or 2, and then Boston and the Rays and Baltimore and anyone you want. But I think the Yankees and the Yankees' Achilles heel is going to be that pitching staff until Garrett Cole gets back. Louis still will be back. They put him down to the minors. And for the Blue Jays are going to have to get Yesevich, and they're going to get Berrios, and they're going to get hopefully Bieber back to strengthen the pitching staff. So those teams, they might be a little vulnerable at the beginning, but I think once they get everything rocking and rolling, those are the 2 teams to watch in the American League East.
Don?
Well, I can't disagree. Everybody, when you look at the teams, you say the Yankees, the Dodgers, they're always going to win. That's just the way it is. And they spend more money, they get more players, they have more depth. They may not win as the Yankees haven't done for so many years, getting beyond the World Series and beyond. But Steve, they just have too many players between the minor leagues, the major leagues, and their ability to make trades.
Yeah, that's impressive. You know, like the Yankees, you know, they get talent from everywhere, and so do the Dodgers. It's good, you know, they not only they sign free agents, but they trade for guys like Luis Gil that pan out. They produce a Clark Schmidt who pans out. Now he's not going to be ready for a while this year, but you know, the Yankees have done a good job of developing talent, trading for talent. The Dodgers do the same, but that's who I like, the Dodgers and the Jets.
Hey guys,
Go to keep the Indians on Cincinnati, I should say. Can he keep them going?
It'll be difficult without Hunter Green.
hey Don.
You know, he's out for a couple months, so that'll be difficult. He's got a little bit harder track, you know, in that division.
Hey Don, we promised Steve that he could get off by 8 o'clock, so he's got some things to do. So we're gonna, you know, thanks Steve for everything. We really appreciate it.
We can finish going around the horn if you'd like. I'll make it quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so then in the American League Central, you know, Cleveland to me has the pitching, maybe a little bit light on the offense, and they were, you know, I use the term they've been lucky the last couple of years. They don't have an offense, but they have an offense that can add that one run late in the game and win. But I'll take Detroit and Cleveland still as the top two in that division, with Detroit a little bit better.
I'm with you.
Out west, Seattle. You know, Seattle gets a lot of the accolades. You know, I don't think Texas or Oakland is going to come out, you know, out in the West. I do like Houston, and I do like Seattle. I probably like Seattle a little bit more than Houston because I'm big on pitching. And then Seattle added Brendan Donovan to that offense. I kind of like that. So that would be the American League. And then we go out to National League West, and I like the Dodgers. It'll be a fun battle to watch between Arizona, San Diego, between Arizona, San Diego, and the Giants. You know, and I like the Giants out of those three teams, very close to the Padres, and not so much the Diamondbacks. I like Milwaukee still, and the Cubs, you know, to be the top two in the Central, but I'd probably lean on the Cubs. And then, you know, and I do like the Phillies. You know, I like the Phillies in the East. So, and then, you know, if I was to say, let me look at my crystal ball and find a World Series, I think we're probably going to be looking. I'm probably going to like the Dodgers and maybe the Mariners this year. Like every year, I say the Mariners are going to finally break through and get to that World Series. So I'll stick to it again this year and say somehow we're going to have the Dodgers and Mariners.
Steve, you're the best. Always a pleasure. Steve. Always the best to have you join us, and we'll do it again as we get into the season, maybe a month or so back in, and we'll see how these prognostications turn out and see how that brave pitching staff comes together.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care. God bless.
All right, Frank, it's all yours.
All right. Well, tonight we have the pleasure of having a good friend on with us. Jeff Phillips is not only the CFO for a major company in Sarasota. He's a good father, a great friend. He's a football official, and on top of all that stuff, he's the official announcer for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Marauders here in Bradenton. I've known him for many, many years, and always loved when he comes on the field to officiate, either as a white hat or as a just official. But he's also the father of one of the other better officials, as well as a great cook chef at a local restaurant. So
Is that the most important?
that is the most important. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Frankie, what's the name of the restaurant? Give the guy a plug. Give the guy a plug for crying out loud. Bradenton doesn't have any great restaurants.
It's not in Bradenton. That's why it's great.
Frank and fellas, thanks for having me on. How do I follow Steve? I mean, that was just amazing. I could listen to him all night long with his prognosis of baseball. My son is the kitchen chef for Cooper's Hawk Restaurant in Sarasota.
There we go.
Gotcha.
There we go.
And he blew by me, and in my culinary skills a long time ago. So yeah, Brad is his name, and he's the kitchen chef at Cooper Sock.
Great, Steve. There's a lot of questions that the guys have at this point in time about the NFL and the possibility of using substitute officials. I remember back when we were doing the Storm in the AFL, we had some officials come in because they couldn't get a contract, but they were not as up to date or as sharp. What's your thoughts?
Well, the amount of preparation that we do at the high school level, and I've known Frank a long time, going back to Pop Warner, where in Pop Warner we trained high school and young officials to be on the field, one day in high school. And of course, now we're training the high school guys to be on the field one day in college. And then they go up the chain to the NFL. Having substitute officials is, I think, in my opinion, tough. Just because we, on the high school level, have supplemental officials that we will plug and play into crews as needed. On a wholesale crew change of substitutes, you've worked all year with the same crew. You know each other's tendencies. It's like a teammate, like an offensive lineman. I know you're going to be there if I'm not there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I agree with the substitutes coming on the field. I have my reservations on that.
Mm-hmm.
Roger, I wanted to bring up when they had substitute officials. Just remember what Buddy Ryan had to say. Okay, I mean, he just let loose. Remember that, Don?
Yes, I do. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Pay the officials and let's get going.
Yeah. I recall when it all ended in the NFL, you had one official give an incomplete signal and one gave a touchdown signal. I think it was the Packers game. And I was watching that game, and I said to whomever happened to be in the room, well, the permanent officials will be back by next weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to mention, but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And not to mention, the brotherhood. The brotherhood of crossing a line, to me, we are brotherhoods, and no matter how much I want to be a Division I official or want to be an NFL official, I would not do it by compromising the brotherhood of officials that came before me. And that's a hard, and that goes back to any officiating level and anything in basketball, baseball. It doesn't matter to me. But the level that these guys operate in the NFL, and you look at ABS coming into baseball, and this is just my opinion. It's not me speaking on behalf of who I announce for. ABS is here to stay. It's technology. Even with ABS, guys, officials get it right 95% of the time, in real time. But the elite athletes, that's incredibly impressive. And technology has slowed things down for replay in football. I get that too. But the level of talent the NFL officials have is incredible. If they try and come in and do it on the fly, I'm not certain I like that at all.
Frank?
Yeah, I have to agree with what you're saying, Jeff. Having watched substitute officials come in to the AFL, they just don't have the knowledge, nor do they care. They're only there to catch that paycheck and get the hell out. I believe in not crossing a line. You don't do that. I don't care what it is. But your other hat that you wear is the announcer for the Pirates and the Marauders. How about telling us something about that?
Well, I'm blessed to be in my 11th year coming up with the Bradenton Marauders as a public address announcer in Bradenton at historic Lecon Park, the third oldest ballpark that's continually hosting professional baseball behind Wrigley and Fenway. Is an honor to announce for the Marauders. We just finished up our spring training with the Pirates. I just completed my 4th year as the public address announcer for the parent club. And it is just an absolute thrill. Every day, gentlemen, I walk in that ballpark and I feel like I'm 13 all over again. It's a joy. The smell of popcorn, the sound of the ball hitting the bat. There's simply nothing like spring training in Bradenton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no question about that. We did covering a lot of sports in Bradenton over the years with the Phillies and all the games that have been played there. I'd like to have a little bit better parking, but other than that, it's a great place, and it's the foundation of spring training in Florida. It's the oldest ballpark here, and it's a terrific opportunity for people to see baseball firsthand during spring training with the Pirates. My question to you is about going back to the officiating. They're saying they're going to make much more use of replay if they use the substitute officials to make sure that the calls are right. That to me seems to be a little difficult to present to the television audience or to the fans of the National Football League. I think, what are you going to do? Stop the game and say, well, we think this guy made a mistake, and then we're going to try to correct it?
Well, so I have a fundamental problem as an official. If I'm on the field with a substitute official, let's say, and we're going to stop the game because the league feels we aren't ready for it. We're not ready for this level of football. That, to me, is an admission that we know the officiating is going to be subpar. And I'm not talking about the rule knowledge. It takes us, we talk to our officials at the high school level again, that they know that doing Pop Warner on Saturday is not the same as doing an IMG game on Friday night, or a Manatee game, or a Venice game. And part of that education with our officials is how you communicate with the coaches. In the heat of the moment, how can you be calm, cool, collected, and communicate with the coaches?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Buddy Ryan's, I think, his point back in the day. These guys, they're like deer in the headlights. I mean, they won't communicate because they're not confident, I guess. So to stop the game because of their inexperience, I think it dilutes the product. And the product is football.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger, me, yeah.
Well, the thing that the point that I brought up several weeks ago was that I watch a lot of, living in the Atlanta area, I watch a lot of SEC games.
Mm-hmm.
And college games, Big Ten, but especially SEC. And I am very impressed with the officiating. And when they had that national championship game, that was an SEC official, which was great because it was a Big Ten and the ACC, right, in the championship. So they don't have an official from either conference that's in the championship. But what I had heard is, and maybe you can confirm this, that the NFL will not touch SEC officials, okay, to bring them in. And the reason is they would, if you have a great referee in the SEC, he wants to come into the NFL as a referee, not as a back judge. And I understand that. Mm-hmm. I understand that, and I look at what they get paid and what a basketball official. I can remember when I was doing the women's games at Drexel, what an official got paid versus what they're getting paid today on a Division I basketball. But you know more about it than me. But that's what I have heard, and it makes sense as far as. The confidence, like you said, the brotherhood of the NFL officials, it's a brotherhood.
It is a brotherhood. I was at a college camp, and Alex Moore and I did football together. Matter of fact, Frank, he and I did a game with you with the Storm.
Yeah.
Alex Moore came through the Pop Warner ranks here in Southwest Florida. Alex began his college career by paying his own way to do clocks in the mountain in the West. I'm not sure what conference it was. Long story short, Alex became a supplemental in the SEC. He then became a white hat in the SEC. And at a camp, I was there when he was a clinician. The NFL was scouting Alex to join the NFL. Alex was hired, like most white hats in the SEC, as a referee, as a center judge in the NFL. He's the other official who's back. He's an umpire, actually. But he's behind the line of scrimmage with the white hat. Mm-hmm. And after a year in the NFL as an umpire behind the line, he's now white hat in the NFL. But Alex also was in the USFL for a year. Mm-hmm. So yes, I didn't hear the discussion.
I'll melt you right in. We're just finishing up with Jeff.
Okay. I literally
fell. White hat will typically put them as an umpire for a year and see how they do. And Alex, he made the cut. So I don't know. I live in the Bradenton area. I watch a lot of SEC football like you do. I think the officiating crew that did the national championship game did an outstanding job. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you guys let the guys play. You're consistent from the first snap to the last whistle. And I thought that and the pace of the game was, they managed the game well. So right.
Yeah, Jeff. There's supposed to be a bunch of new rules coming in this year. Do you have any knowledge of that yet?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm not getting privy to rules on the NCAA side, but I can certainly research. And if you gentlemen would like to have me back on, I would be happy to dig into that for you and discuss at a later time. Happy to, on both the high school and the collegiate level.
Great. Jeff, I know that you've had a long day, and I want to thank you for coming on, for making this time for us. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll be able to get you on in a couple of weeks.
That'd be great. Ahead of time. I enjoy being out with you guys. It's like I would like to spark up a cigar and just have a conversation. I love your show. And it's always a privilege and a pleasure being on with you guys. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate it.
Our special guest this half hour, and of course NCAA official. And as you said, we'll have more in a couple of weeks. We'll go over all the new rules that are anticipated for the fall of 26. And so we'll keep on rolling. And Frank, a great kid, only growing tonight when the National Football League just announced that they were. Talking about substitute officials. So Jeff was a great get for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it.
Look forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Be blessed.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Too. All right, we're going to go to Douglas is on the phone right now.
Who's on the phone now?
Doug, the PGA Master Professional.
Our PGA Master Professional, Doug Hamilton, down in the Baltimore, Washington area, and we were neglected to talk golf the last couple of weeks because so many other things are going on. I will say this: that the Masters is right around the corner, and I don't know. I there's a lot of speculation, Doug, but I just think somewhere along the line that the Tiger's going to make an appearance. What do you think?
Well, he was. If anybody's following the indoor TGL league, there was a rumor that he was going to play in the playoff match. So, I mean, I don't know what his current status is, and we haven't really heard or seen much from him.
No.
He's laid pretty low here, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole ending, portion of his career here has just been marred with injuries and start-stop, and attempts to play that didn't pan out. And, I think it was last year he played in a match in that TGL, and he just did not look good at all. His ball striking was way off.
Right.
I mean, I think if he's healthy enough to play, but that's the thing with Tiger is that I don't think he wants just to go out there and play to be like the ceremonial, let's hit it off the first tee, or be the was it Sandy Lyle that was shooting 85 and 90, and you know what I mean, like just play your 2 rounds and go home. Like I don't think that's his style.
Right. And he was, very, very suspect when he was at the Arnold Palmer tournament. He had a press conference there and said it would still be decided. He didn't really give you any strong indication one way or the other. He just said it would still be decided.
Hey, Mike. I'll brought you right in.
Question for me is he going to make any kind of an appearance on the senior tour?
Well, he didn't make the cut at the last Masters, did he, Doug?
No, he's just, like I said, I mean, he's winding down his career. I mean, he can't, with his status of health, he can't, really play too many events, and he hasn't really been competitive for, some time now.
Right.
So here you go. Let me see what this says here.
Fuck.
Tiger. I wonder how much. Here you go. Tiger Woods made his long-awaited return to golf on Tuesday night by competing for Jupiter Links and the TGL finals. They got their rear ends handed to them. They lost 9-2 in 10 holes. So, I don't know. It says, he hit a T-ball on one of the holes. Looks like his driver ball speed was 176. That's pretty good. So I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, John, we're also joined by...
It's interesting to see what's going on in golf right now. We've talked about over the last 10 years or so the depth of the sport. The fact, in my view, that there's no sport right now on the surface of the world that has more depth than the PGA. I mean, you can get a guy that's 50th on the card. He has a chance to win, next week. I don't think there's any sport that has that kind of depth. And right now, this last couple of weeks have been a perfect example of that. Senator won this week, was it? But I mean, their name is on there that you've never heard of, and yet, they're playing great golf.
Well, to your point, I happen to be sitting at my desk here in front of my computer, and the 51st money leader this year on tour is Jason Day. So, I mean, if you pan down even further, Justin Thomas is 57th, Tony Finau is 58th, Billy Horschel 72nd. I mean, Max Homa 79th, Wyndham Clark 81. I mean, you've got so much talent towards that bottom, of what we're talking about here. I mean, JJ Spawn's 96th. He was your U.S. Open winner last year.
Yep.
Some of these guys, Keegan Bradley, 112th, Lucas Glover, 119th. He was on the Ryder Cup team. So, I mean, that's crazy.
Well, as I say, we've talked about it for 10 years now. That you look at that leaderboard, you say to yourself, okay, yeah, there are 3 or 4 guys that continue to get up there, and but boy, any particular week, somebody could come along, and this young man from South Jersey, all of a sudden wins tournaments and finished second in the British last year. And nobody knew who he was.
So here's a good stat for you. You ready for this one? I know you love this stuff. Jack Nicklaus in his career won $9.1 million. So far this year on tour, Jacob Bridgman has won $6.5 million.
And Nicholas won a little over $9 million in his career.
Correct.
Wow.
And that's with 18 majors.
Hey guys, we're also joined by Mike.
He's late. He's got to pay a penalty.
Whoa!
Wait, I was on time. He just got put in the penalty box.
two minute minor.
Yeah. Well, no, he's on time because we were off schedule for a while. So,
Yeah.
Mike, you're okay.
We're going to get to that soccer in just a second. I just want to finish this one point with Doug. And that is, now, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I mean, you can win $3 million on one tournament now.
Hey, listen, I was on my way home from baseball practice, and Frank texted me and said, "Can you come on at 8:15?" So I had to start my stretching exercises 5 minutes earlier to get up in the bullpen there. You got me.
Whoa!
You didn't stretch anything, did you?
No. As we get older, you guys can help me out with this. But even when I stretch, I think, can I hurt myself stretching?
Because you're rushed, right?
You know?
Roger, you're up.
Well, yeah, no, I wanted to stay with golf because it's been interesting. It really puts things in perspective about how much the younger group of golfers are making today and the money that's there. And you think, I mean, versus Nicholas, that is just astounding. But and I guess it's going to get better. And what about we talked about it a couple of times in recent weeks. What about the merger of the PGA and the LIV?
I don't think we're any closer now than the last time we asked the question. I don't think. And I hadn't really heard much about, anything. Pertaining to.
Dead. It's dead.
Let's see.
They touched on it briefly at the last tournament, but they said it just as you're saying now, that it's not like it's imminent. It looks like it's going to be at least another year or so before they actually go whatever they're going to worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's talks. Looks like talks have collapsed, and there's no end in sight. So
Okay, that answers that question.
Yeah, they talked about it at the last tournament last weekend, and that they thought it was going to move along more briskly, and that things sort of slowed down. So we'll go from there. On the soccer front, Mike, still a lot with what's going to happen with the World Cup, what the United States team is doing in their workouts in Atlanta. And one thing they talked about at great late this week was the deep three. Rome is 32 years old now, and his right wing is supposedly a solid, but they don't have a player to play on the left side with them. Now, what's the story as far as that's concerned going into camp?
There's still I should never talk about the U.S. National team. There's a lot of position battles. We still are not 100% set on what type of formation Mauricio Pochettino is going to play. He's on both a 3-back system and a 4-back system. And I know that it sounds like they're technically figuring, hey, if these guys play defense, they should be able to play defense. If they play central midfielder, they should play defense central midfielder. But in a lot of ways, this is like asking a guy who has played in a spread option all his career to suddenly become a wishbone quarterback. Like, they might have some of the skill sets, but it's a totally different position. So making sure that we are able to fit the right pegs into the right holes. We have a couple of warm-up games, one against Belgium to start. There's still some names that are injured, not necessarily in camp. A few that may have been left out who likely aren't going to make it. For instance, Yunus Musa was a critical part of the last World Cup team. He's not in camp this time. It's unknown whether he's even going to be on the roster. So there's a lot to watch as we see Mauricio Pochettino get his team together, and this is going to be the first best opportunity that we have to kind of get an indication of what direction he's heading into with this roster for the summer.
I want to see 2 games listed that they're going to play in this exhibition season in Atlanta. Are there more than 2, or are they just going to play 2?
No, they'll play 2 games over this 2-week period. And then this is the last time that they'll all get together until June. For I said 3 warm-up games before the actual tournament. So this is like the last couple of games that they get to play, warm-up games before the actual start of the World Cup.
Roger?
How are they supposedly looking, Mike, so far, in these tune-ups?
It's tough to tell because we haven't really seen this unit play together. Christian Pulisic and a couple of other the players did play in the Gold Cup over the summer, and although the team played well, a lot of the European guys that you normally would have seen, like Tyler Adams and Christian Pulisic, weren't there. They haven't really had to play anything resembling competitive games since the summer because they've never had to qualify for the World Cup as the host nation. The results have been mixed. They looked good at times in the Gold Cup over the summer, but then when it came to the final, they got outplayed by Mexico, and it's kind of like they have a lot of potential to be a strong team. We would expect that they would make it into the knockout stages of the competition, which, there's even more teams this year time. There's a round of 32 instead of a traditional round going right to the round of 16. So we'll get a better idea of how they're actually looking after this break before the summer.
I think as we look at the baseball season, you're probably in a better position of where I am for the phone down here, and we have some tower problems, so I can't watch the Yankee game as it's underway. But anyway, you're in a better position. Your thoughts as the baseball season opens tonight, and the fact that they're opening on an unusual channel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion there. I think, ESPN relinquished the rights to Sunday Night Baseball or whatever it was, right? In favor of the NBA, which whatever they can have the NBA. I could care less, but I don't know. I mean, I'm situated here in Frederick, Maryland, and smack dab in the middle of the Orioles and the Nationals. I've never been a National fan. I never agreed with the fact that they were on Masson. So I'm interested in watching, the Orioles and, how to find them on Masson. I don't know. There's an awful lot of excitement. I think, teams break camp for spring training, and, everybody seems to think that they have what it takes to, make a difference in terms of the season. You have a lot of teams that haven't been playoff teams that think they can beat one this year. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, there's obviously so many factors that that boil down what the season is with injuries and what kind of moves were made in the off season in terms of free agents. What kind of rookies do you have that can contribute? What kind of sophomores do you have that can build on maybe a year that they had last year? So I don't know. I mean, you got to go play the games. When you break spring training, you might think you have something, but you don't, or whatever. I just there's still, at least for me, a lot of question marks here in Baltimore with the injury situation to open the season with several guys starting a season, Jackson Holiday and Jordan Westbrook for 2, and then I think our starting pitching is better, much improved from last year, but What's the bullpen going to look like? And I have some question marks there.
Mike, two of us are not in a position to watch Netflix, so we can't see what the Yankees are doing in San Francisco tonight. Maybe you are, as you're doing the show with us. Maybe you're watching the ball game at the same time. But quite honestly, right now, I can't have any input on tonight's game. Your thoughts are, first of all, that it's going to be on Netflix. And secondly, the Washington club, we've talked down to a lot of people over the last couple of weeks, including you, not encouraged about what they're going to be able to do this year, but maybe in the next couple of years, the farm system will grow and be more productive.
I think that baseball, like a lot of things, is going, like a lot of sports, is going through streaming. And so I'm not surprised that Netflix got to the games. They tried to get more into the sports rights that Major League Baseball seems a bit. As far as the Nationals go, I would agree. I don't think that this year it is going to be much for them. Again, they're essentially rebooting a rebuild that they started after they won the World Series. So we're talking about going into the sixth or seventh season of this rebuild, and it's just never really gotten going. Proof of this is the fact that Dylan Cruz, who was their second pick and one of the guys that they thought might be the new, cornerstone of the outfield, the new face of the franchise. Well, he had a rough season when he was brought up after his stick with LSU. He didn't spend much time in the majors. He got brought up late in the season in 2024. He spent the year with the team last year, played about 80 games, and again, struggled at the plate. His career, I think his average is like 211, 100 strikeouts in almost 100 games. It just hasn't really been able to hit. And there was talk this week on a couple of podcasts in the MLB Network that they've asked him to make some adjustments in his approach at the plate and how he plays defense, and he hasn't been willing to make them. So this is kind of like where that rebuild is when this guy that's supposed to be the cornerstone of your franchise, somebody that you took with the number 2 pick, a guy who was supposed to be the best, his teammate Nicole Skeens is supposed to be the best position player available in that 2024 draft, and he's on the verge of looking like a bust. So they need to rebuild their farm system. Those trades for Max Scherzer and Juan Soto, I don't think gave them as much as they would have liked. But now they've got this new, younger, and more analytically based regime in. And so people are starting to think, maybe that's what's going to finally jumpstart this team as they get rid of the old, get rid of some of the things that didn't work and look at some things that might be, more analytics and more stronger scouting, things like that can help them move this franchise forward.
Roger?
Well, we talked about the possibility, Miami has some potential to move up, and I'm glad you brought up exactly your opinion of the Nationals, Mike, that, they still have a lot of work ahead of them in the minor leagues, with their developing players all together. But we talked earlier about it. What's your opinion about the NL East, and then there's Doug, the AL East? And if you want to talk about both leagues, go ahead.
I think that it's going to be the big three in the NL East again. I just don't know what order they're going to finish in. Of course, the Mets had a big offseason, headlined by the Bo Bichette deal, and one would expect them to be better than they were last year, but that was also a team that going into June had the best record in the majors and then just tanked. So there is still, it's hard to pick the Mets because you always somehow expect the Mets to Met. That's what they do. Atlanta, I would have thought would be a strong contender. They're healthier than they've been in a while, but health is always an issue with them. Also, losing Jerks and Pro for probably for at least the whole entire season. What kind of impact is that going to have on them? And then the Phils. I mean, they have their fair share of question marks. This is essentially the same team that they've been fielding for the last couple of years. And, where's the right-handed hitting coming from? What's the approach at the plate going to be? They lost Ranger Suarez. That we were starting the season on the injured list. So when is he going to come back? What are they going to get from Aaron Nola? What are they going to get from Andrew Painter? We've heard a lot about him, but some of it's been, this kid could be the next. That could be another Paul Skeens type to, the arm injuries, the velocity dips, and all of those sorts of things. Don't get your hopes up that he's going to be able to perform type of thing. So I think there's a lot of questions with them. Miami, I think, will be improved, but I don't think they're going to be good enough necessarily to be in the hunt for the division or the wild card. They may push some teams, but I don't think they're there yet. And I see another 90-loss season for the Nats. I'd be surprised if CJ Abrams was still on that team come the trade deadline. I think that they're going to just try and see what they can do, make some moves, because they don't really have the deepest farm system. Their talent pool at the minor league levels isn't actually. They don't have a lot of standout prospects down there. They don't seem to have a ton of guys, young major league talent ready to go. So it's almost as if they're starting from scratch yet again. So I think that they're going to be the cellar dwellers in the NL East.
Doug, your thoughts here? Well, the AL East is a gauntlet. You always have the Yankees to contend with, but I think the Boston Red Sox, in my opinion, would be probably the AL East champions based on, their pitching staff, and they can avoid injuries and such. So, the Toronto Blue Jays were in the World Series last year. So, there's 3 really good teams. Somehow or another, the Tampa Bay Rays always seem to find a way to figure it out to kind of be, pesky enough to contend, and then, of course, you got the Baltimore Orioles that are trying to bounce back from a terrible season last year and made some really nice off-season acquisitions. We'll see how that pans out. I really like, Pete Alonso on first base. I really like Taylor Ward in the outfield. Can we see Adley Rutschman have a better year than he did last year? I think Tyler O'Neill, when healthy, could be a 30-home run guy. I think Kobe Mayo is going to get a chance to play a lot of third base to see what he can do early on. Gunnar Henderson, I think, is primed for a huge season. We'll get Jackson Holiday back at some point. So, there's a lot of reason for optimism. I'm looking at their pitching staff. Trevor Rogers was great last year. Can he do it again? Kyle Bradish, I think, is an ace. I think he's hopefully going to contend for, Cy Young, in my opinion. The addition of Shane Baz, I think, cost a lot in terms of prospects, but I think it's something that had to be done, and I think he has tremendous upside. I think the biggest question mark for me is their bullpen. No, maybe you agree too, Roger. All the baseball that we talked about tonight with different guests up and down the line since 7 o'clock, it seems to me that there's a lot more balance in baseball. It's not going to be the Dodgers and the Yankees out there by themselves. I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out season in terms of there are going to be a lot of teams that have a chance to make a lot of noise before we get to the playoffs. Roger?
Well, I agree, Don. I think there is, when you talk about the Cincinnati Reds
And, and then we talked about the Pirates being improved. So I think you're going to have the quote-unquote also-rans of recent years that are going to be much more competitive. And with the Orioles, I think last year was just a fiasco all year because you look at the way they were the year before. I can't believe, and with what they've added, I can't believe they'll even be anywhere near as bad as they were last year. And I look at them as being strong. But I agree, Doug, with you. I pick the Boston Red Sox to win the AL East.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Garrett Crochet is pretty dang good. They acquired Sonny Gray. The Blue Jays added Dylan Cease. I mean, the Yankees really didn't do anything. In fact, I think they lost a few, kind of key players in terms of their bullpen. I think, if they get Garrett Cole back, obviously he's, pretty studly at the top of their rotation. But, the only acquisition they really made was to re-sign Cody Bellinger, and they way overpaid him. And, in terms of the production, that they're probably going to get, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. That guy's, unbelievable. What a good right fielder he is. And for a huge guy, I mean, he runs pretty well. And, man, can he hit, So, Jazz Chisholm, I mean, they've got, I don't know. I think the Red Sox are the class.
Yeah. I think most people are saying that the Red Sox have made dramatic improvement, just as you say, Doug. And Mike, I just think that I think the bottom feeders, I think they're going to be more competitive. Maybe Washington may be one that will not be, but I think up and down both leagues, the teams that you almost assume are going to lose 90-plus games aren't necessarily going to lose 90-plus games this year. And whereas the teams that are going to win the pennants aren't going to win as many as 102 or 103. That's my opinion.
Sure. I think that I still tend to think that the Dodgers are kind of out in front of everybody.
I agree with that.
The roster is just so incredibly loaded, and they just keep getting stronger. And it's not only that they have a loaded major league roster, they're also loaded in the minor league. They have the best farm systems in Major League Baseball. So if there is a deficiency anywhere in their roster, they have the ammunition to go out and make a deal to go and fill that hole. I just think that they're kind of out there by themselves. But then as far as what you would say those Mets, and I know they got taken to a Game 7 last year. You can't necessarily say that they're a foregone conclusion or that they're inevitable, but I just think that they're in a different category than everybody else. As far as that next tier of teams that would be like the contenders, the World Series contenders, particularly in the AL, I think that tier has a lot more teams in it than it has in previous years. Again, because we do have questions about teams like the Yankees. The Blue Jays were there last year, but what are they this year, especially without Bobuchet? The Red Sox, we talked about them, the improvements that they made. Are they ready to take a step forward? The Yankees, I agree with Doug, like the Phillies, didn't do a whole lot. Are they good enough? And what is Aaron Judge going to do? He's an all-time great regular season player, but will he ever get that great moment in the postseason that he needs so much? The Orioles did have a bad season last year, and it got away from them. Will they be improved? The teams in Texas, the Astros and the Mets, the Texans, they're not that far removed from being really good. Seattle's another good team. They had a really strong season last year. I think all of those teams are pretty in the same the same kind of realm. And, the same thing in the NL. You have a lot of teams at the top, the Phillies, of course, the Braves, the Mets, the Pirates did get better. The Reds, we would expect to be a better team. And then, there's those teams like the A's and the Nationals, who I just think are going to be dwellers. I just think that there's a little bit more excitement because we've seen teams that traditionally really either by design or by ineptitude have to be competitive, but are going to be a little bit better this year because they've been willing to go out and do things. And I'm looking at the Pirates with that one.
Roger? I agree, Mike, and I really, when I heard Don Kelly's interview this afternoon on Mad Dog Radio, I was really impressed. I mean, I was not that, I did not follow the Pirates much, except when they play the Phillies, and because they're in a different division too, even though they're only 300 miles apart. But I just was really impressed. I was impressed with what the manager had to say, and he took over about halfway through last year, and he seems to be really a real key cog in the rise of the Pirates. And I think what's going to be interesting in the West, the NL West, is the Giants, with having a manager that came from the college campus in Tennessee. I think that's going to be a real interesting story. I don't know what you fellas think about it.
There's a reason why we don't see a lot of guys make the jump. In certain sports, we don't see college coaches make it in pros. The Flyers tried it, the Pac-12, and it didn't necessarily work. We haven't really seen it in baseball. I just think it's because in those respective sports, the games are so radically different. So it's going to be, I agree, it's going to be something to follow because there is a bit of this, there's such a question mark over it. Like you feel like it can either really be surprising or it can be an all-out disaster. And I just don't see where the middle room is in that one.
I think a couple points to be made. I think one, isn't the Milwaukee Brewers head coach, didn't he coach at the college level? I'm pretty sure he did. I can't think. Maybe went to
He coached at the college level, but I don't think he had came directly from college to the pros in the same way.
And the other point to be made for Don, if you look at the odds to win the World Series, the Dodgers are obviously the top team. Right. But it has Seattle Mariners as the third best odds, which I think is kind of crazy. But if you look at you can bet on wins, like over-under wins. To your point, Don, there's only 3 teams listed that have 90 wins or more as their over-under. Right. So I think that's correct. Yeah, I was making your point for you because that's what you said with regard to kind of the parity involved in this year. So
let me ask you this, Doug. When we talk about Baltimore, we talked about the improvement 2 years ago and how they climbed over that 90 mark and moved on and were really a contender right till the end. And the pitching all fell apart last year. Now that they were ready to start the season, how did spring training go for the pitching, not only the starting pitching, which was really short last year, but the bullpen? Where do they stand?
Yeah. Well, Keegan Aiken he's a left-handed kind of setup guy. He's going to start the season on the 15-day disabled list. That allows for, I think it's their 25th best prospect. I think his name is like Anthony Nunez to start the season on the Major League roster. Ryan Helsley for a closer, which has been a good one. I kind of like them signing him and fortifying the back end of that bullpen. My concept is that they don't have another guy, in my opinion, who's a fortified, closer. Because we know the way baseball works. I mean, a closer can pitch, 2 days in a row maybe? But what happens the third day? So I think yesteryear Cano, who was an all-star 3 years ago, just was dominant, at least at that point. definitely has taken steps backwards since then. Last year, he was absolutely terrible. There's some question marks in that bullpen, a lot of cast-offs, a lot of, waiver wire kind of guys. There's, Rico Garcia, which they got from the Mets. He pitched particularly well in the WBC. I don't know if his name was Puerto Rico. I think he pitched 4 or whatever. He looked okay. Grant Wolfram's another one. Real tall left-handed guy, throws, mid-90s. Had a really good spring training. I think there's some arms that they're going to kind of shift back and forth between probably double and triple A. A couple guys that I saw, Levi Wells was one, who's a top prospect for the Orioles, can get it up there close to 100. There's a couple other guys that I think kind of fall in suit with that. But I was anticipating them breaking spring training with at least one more leveraged arm in that bullpen. And I honestly thought that Ryan Mountcastle would probably be, traded for one of those kind of guys, which still could happen. I don't think Michael Elias is done trying to, kind of craft this baseball team, this roster, but we'll see, as the season kind of gets itself going.
Roger, we got 2 minutes. You can jump around wherever you want to go for 2 minutes.
Oh, I was just trying to find on the MLB website, because they changed it a little bit this year, to try to find the Phillies roster, because yesterday when I looked at it, there were some missing links on the 25-man staff and roster, I should say. And I just wanted to find out if they corrected everything today. But I was just doing it real quick on my phone. I just can't find the roster. They're giving a lot of news about everything else and about the game tonight, opening night. But, I mean, as we talked about earlier, Don, I mean, I don't have Netflix. I have no interest in it. I know people love by it, but I just wonder the excitement for an opening night when it's on a non-free network. I think it was on NBC. Steve K sort of alluded to that. I think it would add a lot more to it. And you mentioned about Cincinnati every year. They have the big parade when it was the first game of the year. And I think things like that, tradition, I think, can really help the game.
Yeah, I think I want to make a point here. Pat Murphy is the head coach for the Milwaukee Brewers. He coached at Notre Dame, and then he went to Arizona State, and he left Arizona State to coach the San Diego Padres. So he did jump from the collegiate ranks to Major League Baseball. So I just wanted to verify that.
But, well, not as a manager, though, as a coach, right?
No, he was San Diego Padres. Wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, he was a special assistant. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
but he did make jump from college to pro.
Mike, you want to comment?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Well, thank you very much as always, Mike. And next week we'll do it all over again. Doug, same thing with the golf. Great, they'll talk a little golf tonight. We'll keep it going. We'll keep those Orioles on the winning track. Roger, we keep going one way or the other.
That's it. Next week we'll be getting ready to preview the Masters.
And Netflix will see this game without us. Frank does a good job at the helm. Good job with Jeff. Jeff, we'll have him back quickly to go over those rules and regulations. Great to have a nice show tonight. Take care, gentlemen. Do sign us off.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, the men and women police and fire services, the doctors and nurses and first responders. These programs are also dedicated to those who've lost their lives in the line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman David Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Patrolman Jeffrey Yazwitz, Sergeant Thomas Batinger, San Diego Officer Mike Hendler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Department, Detective Randy Bell, Detective Ricky Childers, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Deputy Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department. Sergeant Chris LeBate, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant Mike Zerba, Newcastle County Police. Patrolman Anafo Crispin, Lakeland PD. Deputy Josh Meyer, Nassau County Sheriff's Department. Captain Matt Letourneau, Philadelphia Fire Department. Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department. Captain Ardith Hope, Wilmington Fire Department. Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department. Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department. Chief Al Hogle, Longboat Gate Police Department. Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department. Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol. Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol. Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol. Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department. Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department. Fire Chief Corey Compantier, Buffalo Creek Fire Department. Deputy Ronnie Ronaninsky, Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Patrolman Zachary Butterfield, Bradenton PD, and Corporal Timothy O'Connor, Pennsylvania State Police. My brothers and sisters, though you may be 10-7 at this point in time, sometime we'll be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Until that time, may the rose rise up to meet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields and the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your families always in the palm of his hands. Good night, God bless, and have a great week.